How should we start?
Is it truth for truth's sake if you are staying with the presence to get the truth?
Is it truth for truth's sake if you're staying with the presence? Once you stay with the presence, then do you have a position left? So suppose that you went to God's presence and you felt that I'm going so that I can have a happier life, more peaceful life, something like that. But actually you went to His presence. Now what position do you have left? So it doesn't really matter at that point what your intention was initially, because you have come to His light, His love. So truth for truth's sake is helpful to get us to that point. Because if we are selfish in our intention in spirituality, if we are just selfish in terms of what outcomes we want out of it, then God's presence itself will seem difficult to reach, difficult to meet. But you're saying that you can be in God's presence, and is it okay that if you went for a particular intention, but once you reached God's presence, then it doesn't matter what initial intention you had. So are you able to meet His presence? Are you able to meet His light?
Right now, yeah. Like, is there a position you mean? Do I want anything more? Is there like
Yes. So if you say, I want to be in His presence so that I can always have this bliss that I experienced one time, or I can always have this peace that I wanted, you see, then that is an outcome that you want for yourself. How about you want God for God or truth for truth? Because we are tired of the lie. That itself should be enough inspiration for us to come to God. I'm also getting used to this booming sound. It's all right. Should we cut? Yeah, can we do something?
satisfying? So I just wanted to check whether I should want more, or it's all everything that I'm looking for.
So once you come to God's presence, then you must find out whether He leaves or whether you leave. Yeah. So don't even leave to ask this question. If it is happening from within that, it is fine. But once you come to His light, don't leave. Maya will make you leave. If something compelling will come, and you will decide to leave for that seeming compulsion. But once you recognize that you got tricked, you must return as quickly as possible to His love, to His light, to His presence. You see? Don't leave His light for any understanding, because the mind will tempt you with understanding. What is happening to me now? You see, I want to understand that. But don't leave Him even for that. Because no one can ever say, I went there and I measured the depth of it I've got a measure of God, and now I can come out because I have understood it all. It is a ever deepening mystery, it's a ever deepening sweetness, it's a ever deepening insight. So you must remain. If you can say that I can meet it, then you must commit to never leave it. Because the ego, the mind will try with all its might for you to not live a godly life, for you to lead a personal life. It'll throw every fear at you. It'll say, who will take care of the family? Who will take care of my job? Who takes care of the money? But know that if you live in His light, in His presence, then anything that needs to happen in this seeming world can continue to happen in His grace. If it is going to happen, it is only going to happen by His grace anyway. So we don't have to worry about those things. The kids are here, so maybe this example is coming because of that. So if you're learning how to fly a dragon, no? But you don't get on top of the dragon because you're worried about some mosquito, then you see, that's how it is. The mind stops you with mosquitoes, whereas you have to learn how to fly the dragon. So do we recognize that it is a possibility, firstly, to meet God's presence called the Atma or the Holy Spirit within ourselves? Do we recognize the truth of this possibility? Yes or no? Not rhetorically, I'm really asking. Can we? Can we meet God within ourselves? Or it's only for a selected few rare ones? Can you do it? And some of you will report that you have, so we'll come to that in a moment. But for everyone else, can you meet God? Yes, no? Can't be neutral, right? Rest of the time you can be neutral. Can you meet God? Is it possible, or it's only in Amar Chitra Katha and in movies and television? It's possible? Now, if that was possible, as it is possible, then what else is important? If it is possible for you to meet God, the one, then what else could be important? Huh? Yes. In the sense that anything else which the world could offer you, what else could be important? Money? Huh? Yes, I'm saying that besides God, besides anything to do with God, what else? Money, relationships, body, and even the search for an understanding, a search for meaning. These are the four variables that most of humanity fixes themselves on, isn't it? So if the possibility is true that I can meet God, then What about all the money I could make instead? Huh? Not that you have to stop making money, but suppose you did. Then, what would you say? You get to live in God every moment of your life, or let's make it even more difficult. You get His darshan for one moment, but you get to make no money after this. What do you pick? Huh? Scary? Who's clear about this answer? Who's clear it's a no?
The answer is clear.
Yeah.
It's just that something doesn't want it.
Yes, exactly. And that is something that we need to counter with the commitment of our answer. So, most of you are looking scared about this one. So, this is a good one to start with. You see, because the meeting with God, although God's presence is always here and it's always actually available, when we are in a state of grasping, when we want a lot of things from Maya, or even if we want one thing from Maya, then the task seems infinitely more difficult. And it's good to meet. I'm not saying that these are simple questions to answer and, you're being really silly by saying, but that sounds like a difficult question. It can seem difficult. But the question remains, if you could meet God for one moment, but you never made any money in your life after this, what would you pick? Huh? Yes, but suppose that was the deal, what would you pick? A completely godless life, where no darshan of God, not even for a moment, or one moment of God but no money. What's the answer? Huh?
That's what we are here.
That's why you're here. Why you couldn't? once you're here, then you can't make any money. Okay, let's change the question. One moment of God. Okay, but before we change the question, how many moments of God will be worth it having no money? How many moments of God will be worth it to have no money? Huh? 24 hours, one day. One day of God and then no money after that. Yes? Okay. What does everyone say? Huh? What do you say? It's a good contemplation. And I don't want necessarily answers, I just want to seed this contemplation in you. Because many times our lips say, all I want truly is God, and my life is for God. Let everything be according to God's will, even if I have to be in any condition. Jahir vidhi rakhe Ram, tahir vidhi rahiye. It means any state that Ram keeps us in, we are happy to stay in. We say these things, but do we really mean it? Do we really mean it? So this is an example of the fear with the simple thing like money. So if I said to you, one moment, or maybe let's make it a day, because the day seems more tangible. One day of God, but no relationships. No worldly relationships. Deal or no deal? Some are tired of relationships. But what about the ones who just fell in love? Just the honeymoon period is on. And no relationship, only God. Do you make the deal? Huh? Huh? Third question, one day of God's presence, but you have a body like Ashtavakra. Ashtavakra is one of the greatest sages this country has ever produced. But he was called Ashtavakra because his body was bent in 8 places, unnaturally. Yeah? So he just had a very convoluted sort of body. So, yeah, one day of God, but a body like Ashtavakra's for the rest of your life. Deal? Scary.
After one day, what will happen? You forget God.
Yeah, no God's presence will ever be felt. But one day of His presence will fully be there.
I hear you.
Okay, let's reverse the questions. No God ever, not even for a moment, but you have more money than Elon Musk. Huh? Huh? No God, no presence is felt. You can have the notion of God. You see, you can have ideas about God, but you will never come to His light. But you will have more money than anyone else. Deal? Huh? You want God all the time. Yes. Yeah. But what if the deal was just one moment of God or no God at all? Yes. But at the cost of? Okay, let's put it another way. You come to God, and every moment of your life then has to be lived according to His will. Huh? Yes, He's going to be apparent, but then you have to live every moment of your life according to His will, whether He says, go move to Timbuktu, give up all your money to the poor, uh, whatever His will is. Huh?
That's it.
You won't be in denial. So God says, give all your money to the poor.
And God will be there.
I didn't hear anything else.
Nobody said He will always be there.
Yes, He's there with you.
Yeah.
But as long as you follow His will.
That's fine.
Huh? Whatever His will may say. So, is that not true for us now? The only condition to remain with God is to follow His will. So why do we leave? It's a very big thing that all of you confirmed. You said, I will live by His will, come what may, as long as He's here. So what stops us now? Because the only thing that gets in our way is to live on our own terms. To live egoically means to live in self-will. Right now, are you doing what God wants or what you want? Yeah? Both? You checked with both. Yeah? What is God saying? How did he tell you that?
Just good question.
Are we going to presume his will, or are we going to ask him?
This is our test.
Yeah?
This is like an exam.
This is sounding like an exam. So, again, maybe because the kids are here. So we end up presuming that the one who runs billions of universes like this, as if they are nothing but playthings, that one cannot speak to us. So how can we ask him? But have we really asked? Have we really checked?
We ask you instead.
Huh?
We ask you.
No, provisionally that is fine. Provisionally that is fine. But that is not a permanent solution, because the only job of this one is to lead you to that one. You see? So I just have a very provisional role in this life, which is to allow his words to be spoken through this mouth, his light to be shared through this instrument. But it is only so that you can meet the Sadguru within, his presence, his light within yourself. So, till we come to a point that he tells us what to do, can we allow him to move us as his will is? To start to live in his will, we must allow him to move whatever we take ourselves to be. If we take ourselves to be this whole universe, then allow him to move this whole universe. If we take ourselves to be this body-mind, then allow him to move this body-mind. How do we start? Right now. Right now it is not too late, but tomorrow will be. Let me ask the kids, who is your favorite movie star or Marvel hero or something like that? Huh? Don't worry, not an exam, no marks. Superhero, huh?
Cartoon.
Yeah?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, okay. Now, if I promised you that if you were to follow some instructions, then you can actually meet Spider-Man in 6 months. That you could actually meet Spider-Man in 6 months if I tell you what to do and if you do it. Suppose. Then what would you do, what would you not do if you had the chance to actually meet a real Spider-Man?
I don't know.
क्या नहीं करोगे? If I tell you study 1 hour more every day, you'll do it?
Yeah.
To meet Spider-Man. So how many hours is the limit?
Daily.
Daily.
1 hour.
1 hour. Okay, so if I say 2 hours every day and you'll meet Spider-Man in 2 weeks, will you do it? No. 2 hours. That's the limit of the allegiance, and we are actually laughing, but this is our situation. You see, this is our situation where we say all we want is God, but then we draw a boundary. And I was just taking an example, Beta, don't worry. So I was just saying that our idea of surrender is bound by the mental limitations that we impose upon it, and we say that this far and not further. You see, so we made a mental calculation as to how we want our life to go, and what place that life deserves. So you could replace Spider-Man with a Shah Rukh Khan or a Tom Cruise or for the boys, who are the popular ladies these days? Whatever. Okay, not a single name is coming. So, okay, let's say Deepika or somebody like that. You see, and and you said that you have to participate in this contest where you have to fulfill certain requirements for the next day, 24 hours, and then you can meet your icon or whoever that icon is. Then what would you do? So you'll do quite a bit, but you'll have a boundary, isn't it? You'll say this much, but now more than this is too much. You see? But for God, where is that boundary?
I find that for God, you could get stuck. In the sense that you start and you can't stop. You get tired, but you can't. I mean, like it's like a.
So if I told you that the boundary is that you have to completely become zero to yourself. See, I don't want to use scary language with the kids are there. So you have to become zero to yourself. And that condition you have to fulfill. Would you be up for it? Or do we still like the me so much that even for God we would not do it? Are you happy to be empty to yourself? Or you love the persona, you love the individuality, the meanness so much that you will draw a boundary to how much of that me you will give up? So I'm just setting the structure of the spiritual project so that we get a sense of it. You see? Because the sages have told us that the lane is too narrow. Gali hai sakri. If there is God, there cannot be me. If there is me, there cannot be God. Up for it? No concern about anything else that has to do with the ephemeral, that has to do with that which is between birth and death. It has to do with the realm of Maya. Maya itself, as Anandamayi Maya has told us, is Main Aya, which means the me has come, is Maya. You cannot have a facade of this me and say that you're free from Maya. So moment to moment, it is the simplest project. You see? But if you look at ourselves as a life, then it may be the most difficult one. And what do you get out of it? Nothing at all. Except truth. Except God. But what is that truth? What is that God worth in the human kingdom? Nothing at all. You see? So, to come back to his first question, so if you want something out of it, that now that I have met God, I should become a teacher, I should have followers, I should always live in bliss, I should get respect. Then that is not a true spirituality, that is a dead spirituality. I heard yesterday Thomas Merton said, if there are a lot of buzzards flying around, then most likely there's a dead one somewhere. So spirituality, which is, he said, fussy in that way, then can attract a lot of attention, but soon you recognize that what's at the middle of it is dead. It is not alive with the living presence of God, not alive with the sense of servitude to God. So it's absurd that in today's world, that which traditionally has been considered the most self-sacrificing way to live a spiritual life, has become the most self-elevating way to live through a spiritual life. You see, and when I'm saying self, I'm talking about small s. So, really the question is, what is it that we truly want? And if even one of you says that I'm on fire in my heart for God, then I'm here to serve you. But if it is just me, then I don't know what if we are doing here. And the thing is that most of us have already seen the ephemeral nature of this life. We've already seen that nothing here truly is joyful or loving or even truly pleasurable or can give you any sort of contentment. You have seen already that the only rest, rejuvenation, guidance, peace, love, beauty you have found in your life is when you go within yourself. But we keep trying to hedge our bets. We keep trying to hedge our bets and say, little bit of this, little bit of that. So, like the families tell us, we tell ourselves the same thing. Is balance mein karo. Yeah, which means do everything in the right balance. But there you meet a contradiction. So is Kabir ji right or Rahim ji right when he said the lane is too narrow? If there is a me, there cannot be God. If there is God, there cannot be me. Is he right? Or is this idea of trying to balance our life right? I know that I may be saying things which may seem too far out or too radical. But really, I'm not attempting to say that you must become an outer sadhu. Yeah? You don't have to become an outer sadhu, but you do have to become an inner sadhu. And the most of the outer sadhus I've come across are not sadhus anyway. Just by wearing the right clothes, saying the right things, you don't become a sadhu. If you truly let go of grasping, if you truly let go of this world inwardly, then you could be like King Janaka, or you could be like his teacher Ashtavakra, who was a simple beggar sage. That doesn't matter. But if your sadhutva is only for show, outwardly, then it doesn't mean anything at all. So inwardly we have to be empty to the temptations of our mind. But I promise you that God is real and you can live in His presence, in His light during this lifetime. But I cannot promise you when that will happen. I cannot prescribe a course of medicine and say, do this for 7 days or 7 years and that will definitely be your state. But you have to start. And it's never too early to start. It's always too late to start. So whether you're up for this or you don't feel ready yet, at least start contemplating. Start contemplating this somewhere, saying, is God a reality? And if God is a reality, then how is it that I am not living in His light, I am not living in His love? And am I just leading a mentally spiritual life where I'm thinking that I'm following His will, and I'm just thinking that everything is happening in His light, whereas I'm not realizing that I'm being fully egotistical and selfish in my life. So if I ask you all, is God here? All of you will say yes. If I say, is His presence palpable to you? Half of you will drop off at that point. You see? So is that a contradiction that you're willing to live with? that He's actually here, but you can't meet Him, or you haven't met Him, or you are not meeting Him right now. Because you're busy judging, you're busy wanting, you're busy remembering, you're busy desiring, you're busy doing all of these things. There is no God at all if God is not here now, isn't it? Because that God which would come and go would not be God. So He is here. Are you meeting Him? Are you in His light? Are you in His presence? Can the world offer you something in comparison to that? This moment? God is here. I am not living in His light, but the world gives me some candy. Am I happy with that? You see, and the candy is, of course, whatever your favorite candy is. Are we okay with that? Are we okay just to say, yes, but I know God is here. What more do you want? You see? The knowing here is not equal to the knowing here. Don't confuse yourself and say that this knowing is equal to recognition. Because that recognition is beyond anything that you can ever know or grasp at. And even now what could be happening is that you're not really hearing what I'm saying, you're hearing it through the lens of what your mind wants you to hear. So you're converting it according to your convenience and saying, what he's trying to say. So the first thing could be, you could say, he's talking rubbish, so just shut up, why did I come? That's one option. You see? The second option is, even if you're listening to it through the lens of your own understanding. And most of you listen with confirmation bias anyway, so you're very happy if I'm just repeating things that you already know, you see? And you feel that you came to the right place, because if I were just repeating things you already knew, you're like, he's so right. Because I'm so right. You see? So if you're listening with that kind of bias, then you will only enjoy satsang when you're hearing things you already know. Then there's no point coming to satsang. The point of coming to satsang is for you to feel like you came to a very difficult workout, you see? Yeah? That you were shaken up at some level. Because it's not self-help. It's a wake-up call. To wake us up from this dream called Maya. Within Maya, some alarm clock has to ring, isn't it? So in the form of these questions, the attempt is to wake us out of this dream into the living reality of God's presence. So if He is real, why are you not living in His light at this moment? What stops us? It's important to identify the thief. What stops us? Okay, firstly, is He real? Because one of the things that has happened in spirituality is that many of my children have now told me in spirituality that I don't really like God, or I don't really want to know about God. You see? Because of conditioning, because of how the world has treated the name of God and what all the exploitation that has happened in the name of God. So I can understand the aversion, but my question really is that if spirituality is to be in the presence of spirit, then what is spirit if not the presence of God? So we can't really have a spirituality where we say, let's keep it empty of God. You see? They're like, you paid for the buffet, but there's no food. You see? So I realized where the aversion comes from because of whatever conditioning we may have. But it's time to look again. And if spirit is really the Atma, which is the presence of God, then God is unavoidable in Satsang. It is the centrality of Satsang. So how many of us believe that God is just a concept that humans have invented, that for things that they cannot understand or for things that they cannot resolve in their life, they just give it to this box in their heads called God. God will take care of it. Nobody, you may not, you feel that, you feel that? No, I'm not pressuring you into changing your answer, but from whatever reports you've given me in the past, it doesn't sound like you heard the question right. So, and you don't have to admit it, even if you believe that, you see. But I'm here to tell you that he is a living reality, and in fact, he is the only living being. And I'm saying it by his grace, from the inside that is here. But I'm not asking you to take my word for it. I'm saying that this madman is in front of you making this claim, and it's a big claim. So you have to either prove me right or prove me wrong. But you can't just be neutral about it. You can't say, okay, maybe, but who cares? I have other things to do. Yeah? The mind is living in the light of God itself, in the presence of being, this world with all its play of light and sound, and in his light on his screen, does it appear? So it's not an independently living entity. Like this, is it? Or this, all in is in his light, on his screen. So what is truly living is him. What do we call living? Life. That which is alive, isn't it? So what is alive right now? What makes us alive right now? The being, no? The presence of his being. You see, whose presence is that? You see? Whose presence is that? Have you ever met another one except this one? There's only one being that you met, which is your own Atma. But your Atma has whose presence? Huh? Why you look so worried? What happens is that after coming after a long time or coming the first time, although the words I'm speaking are fairly simple, but there seems to be You see, there doesn't seem to be like a block, something doesn't want to hear it. That's good. That's a very natural resistance that happens. But and that is what is called the defrosting. You see? And the first time you come, then everything seems to, for some of you it can seem very blissful, for some of you it can seem like everything bothers you. You see, just like, why is this one like this? Why can't this one? Why is this question like that? Why is this sound like this? You see, everything seems to bother. You see, but you have to go through that defrosting period, through that resistance. You see, it's very worthwhile to do that. Well, hopefully.
I'm so sorry. I raised my hand that time because I wanted to share something.
Yes,
I
yes.
didn't mean to.
No, it's okay. So the question there was that how many of you feel that God is just a construct of our mind? And I didn't feel like you would say that anyway. But it's okay if you believe that. It's a start. We can start our meeting at that place, wherever you want to start. So, but my job is to remind you that He's a living being, and He's here. But most of our brothers and sisters, seem to be living in denial of Him. And sometimes even the tiniest things can bother us, so it can feel like, why is Ananta going on repeating him, instead of her? Is it? So it's not a gender thing. Him is just a traditional way of referring to him, but we may as well call him her. Whether we call him Devi or whether we call him Bhagwan, it doesn't matter, because he's so far beyond these human considerations. So just the language that we use traditionally, but it's not about gender. So don't let these small things, because these small things have a habit of getting in the way, is it? Just like something. So you may have a beautiful satsang, then afterwards somebody in the sangha tells you something as a joke or something like that, and you feel like, oh, I don't like these people, I'm not going to come. See, notice that the mind will resist that which is truly important in your life, because the mind doesn't want the switch over of power from head to heart. Like I've been saying, it's a complete change of operating system. We've been living in the way of the head. Now we're learning how to live in the way of the heart. So for that, Maya will play every single trick, everything to prevent you from switching over to God's light rather than believing the delusion of Maya.
Father, I feel it is possible with you, Father.
It's possible?
With you being with us, it is possible.
Well, that's in a way, that is the provisional role that I'm meant to play. Now, unfortunately, you got stuck with this stupid one, this foolish one. I don't know how well or badly he'll play that role. But from whatever I can tell, his intention seems to be to bring this infection of the love of God with all his might to you. So if it is intention that is important, then may it be that it works that way. But as far as intelligence or depth or understanding or any of these things being benchmarks, then this one is probably the stupidest guru you can go to. Sorry, that is very disappointing. I look at the lives of the sages and I am wonderstruck. I'm awestruck by their beauty and their depth. Where this foolish boy is nothing compared to them. But I am in love with God, and if that counts for something, then maybe that's all I have to offer. But even my love for God is so minuscule compared to the sages that we read about, we hear about.
The main villain is the mind. Can you give us some tips how to reduce its power and its dominance, since it's been a lifelong
Yes.
habit?
Yes. In fact, most of satsang is those tips. So when I ask you, when you wake up first thing in the morning, don't leave your bed till you come to God's presence. It can sound like a very simple pointer, but if you make this one small change in your life, you wake up in the morning, don't rush to your phone, don't rush to your computer, don't rush to taking care of things, just wait, and whatever, if the ADS works for you, or if the inquiry works for you, the invitation works for you, there are so many tools which have been made available to you. If a bhajan works for you, if doing some hatha yoga works for you, so that bed thing is not literal. I'm just saying that don't engage with the world till you come to that presence in your heart. So start in that way, and even if you feel like you have not met his presence, then at least start with the deep intention to center yourself. Everybody can relate to this term, at least, to center yourself, to come to your heart, and to pray for his light, for his guidance, for his love as your day starts. So start that way. Start with the Atma Darshan Samadhi, or whatever gets you to his light. Start like that. The mind will rush you and say, today there's no time. Today I have some important things to do. But you don't want to inflict an egoic day onto yourself or onto those that you will end up meeting. It's better that you don't meet rather than for them to meet the ego. So as important as things may seem, as urgent as they may seem, you commit that you will not leave till you meet God. Start like that. Then carry the intention throughout the day to just live in His presence. But for everyone, including this one, something will happen, something will compel you, the mind will say, no, no, no. And soon we are identified. We are identified with the mind we've lost. So the trick is to, as soon as you notice, don't get into any post-mortem, don't start feeling unworthy, guilty, none of that. Just return. Return to your heart. For some, it is helpful to do constant prayer, constantly taking the name of God, whether it is your arrow prayer from the Atma Darshan Samadhi or just something, it could be Ram, Krishna, Allah, Jesus, God, Devi, Vaheguru, so many beautiful names of God are available to us. You see, endlessly. So just return to your remembrance of God. So use that as a tool. For those who don't resonate with this kind of devotional practice, remember to ask yourself during the day, who am I? Who am I? Sincerely, not like a not like a mantra, but sincerely ask, who am I? Then you'll return to being open and empty. So as often as you feel is needed. So some of you ask me, what is the frequency at which we should do this? You see? So, but that depends on how quickly you get identified. You see? If you're getting identified with the mind, the instant you stop the inquiry or stop the prayer or the chanting, then you need to constantly do it. If it takes 5 minutes, then every 5 minutes. If it takes 1 hour, then every 1 hour. You see, that you have to check for yourself. You see? And it is not a benchmarking, nobody's winning, it's not a game, it's not a race. You see, so be honest with yourself, be true to yourself. You don't have to publish it somewhere, we're not publishing rankings that this one just needs to say Ram once a day and he's fully empty or she's fully empty. Nobody cares. You see? Or whether one needs to say it constantly as an anchor to keep us anchored in his love and his light. Whatever brings you back to his presence, whatever resonates with you the most, to do that as often as needed. Because not one moment of ego is worth it. Not one moment of leaving God for our false identification, avidya, is worth it. So if you're doing the Ram prayer, for example, in your Atma Darshan Samadhi, and you're using your breath and you're doing the prayer, and within 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, you're finding that you're fully empty and his light is shining through in your heart, then stay with that. Allow your body to move, allow the activities to unfold in his presence. And then during the day, if you feel that you're just wandering off and you're taking yourself to be this body mind, then just say the full prayer or just say Ram, Ram, Ram. Return to that. Or Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Return to that. Or just God, God, God. Return. Remember that your intention to be in his presence is much more important than the method that you're using. You see, the methods will make themselves available if you really want to be with him. But your commitment must be, your surrender must be 100%. You cannot do this with a half surrender. You cannot say half mine, half yours. So, because only when our surrender, our commitment is 100%, then only then do we have a chance at least to be 50%. If we start off half-hearted, then the mind will get you, Maya will get you very fast. And last satsang I shared the Narada story with Krishna, so I won't repeat it, but the point of the story is that we don't know the next time when we get caught in the mind, you see, whether we will ever remember God again after that or not. We cannot really predict. Just like Narada went to get a glass of water for Krishna and he saw this beautiful woman there, and then he said, one thought that wouldn't my life be great if this woman was with me in my life. Then he forgot about Krishna, he forgot about serving him, getting him water. He just went his own merry way till a lot of suffering came his way. And then he remembered God saying, God, why are you making me suffer? But I have a feeling that before that big suffering comes, God sends us a million nudges. You see, He sends us a million nudges before the big slap comes or the big push comes. You see, because we are stubborn and obstinate and we are egoic, we don't pay attention to those nudges to turn to Him. You see? So sometimes that big chop is needed for us to turn. You see? That is also His grace. That otherwise we would have wasted this whole life. So if you become just a little sensitive to even the nudges from God, something that is pointing you to God, then like Kabirji said, दुख में सिमरन सब करें सुख में करे ना कोई सुख में सिमरन जो करे तो दुख का एक हो होए. Meaning that everyone turns to God when they are suffering, but hardly anyone or no one turns to God when they are happy, when they are content. But if they were just to turn to God when they were happy and content, then there is no need for suffering to come. So if we make God our refuge when we are not unhappy, when we are not necessarily suffering, then there is no reason to go through these things. And even if life events happen as they will, that is inevitable in life, it will not seem like suffering, it will only seem like pain. And that pain is inevitable. But suffering is mental, it is psychological. So, what are the tools? All of these tools: Atma Darshan Samadhi, inquiry, prayer, bhajans, even mindfulness, Hatha Yoga, Pranayam, everything. Whatever, you have to try it out and see what helps, what seems to work for you. So, we've been going for this running, even that running could be, because after a few rounds around the park, you're just empty, You could call it run samadhi. Because it becomes like that, you're just empty. First, at least at my age, what happens is uh, attention is going to some pain in the ankles or knees or something. You see, so it takes a little bit of warming up, few rounds, and after that, then you're just empty. And to be empty for God is all that we can do. The rest is His grace. And that is why I'm saying that your intention, your feeling must be to surrender your life to God. If that is it, then I don't feel like there can be one who has that but has not found the method. You see, the method will come. There are so many beautiful methods.
Can we say that God longs for us, for our emptiness and for our invitation?
Yeah. I'm very happy to say that. Yes. Because our joy on meeting Him is indistinguishable from His joy on meeting us. You see? Our love on meeting Him is indistinguishable from His love on meeting us. So, yes. And if to remember that He's waiting for us helps us turn to Him? Very much so. So faith, love, prayer, gratitude, obedience to His will, all of these things are important. Faith is very important because the mind will ask you for evidence, or it'll latch on to some feelings and it'll make your spirituality about some feelings. But to trust that which your mind cannot understand but your heart knows, that needs faith. Ask yourself, what does your heart know? Our meeting will be much easier as well, because I don't have to work through then the resistance of your mind. You see? Because this one is just a feeble instrument of your own heart. So what is your heart telling you? And to rely on that more than what your rationality is telling you, what your feelings are telling you, what your mind is telling you, that needs faith. And that's why faith includes courage actually. Patience, courage, all is included in that faith. So in this faith then we move out of the armchair spirituality, the lip service spirituality, which seems to afflict this world so much. See, where everyone loves talking about it and they have their own philosophies and ideas about everything. You see? But truly nobody is going to God and asking Him, what is your will? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? Or with integrity go to God and say, you move me. You speak through this mouth. Because that needs courage, that needs faith. Faith is very, very important. The biggest contaminant of the spiritual project is pride. You see? Little bit of pride, you have a beautiful mixture. You're making the best, like you were trying one time. You're making the best kombucha. Making the best kombucha. But one drop of pride will contaminate the whole thing. See? So, like alcohol or something like that. So, but our spiritual life gets contaminated by pride. You see? And why it's so contaminating is because it hides in a blind spot. You see, it just hides in a blind spot. But ask yourself, do you really know anything? Ask yourself, is there anything good which doesn't come from God in your life that you have done? And if the answer is yes, and you don't have to admit it, but if the answer is yes, then that is pride. That I can be good by myself. I am something by myself. You see? And this may sound scary to many of us because this is the entire philosophy of the world seems to be this, to become something, be someone. Even our parents will tell us, कुछ बन के दिखाओ, become somebody, see? नाम रोशन करो, make the name bigger. But what is name? Name and form is literally the definition of Maya. See? So, this pride stays hidden, and Maya's best hiding spot is this pride. And the thing is, can I say that I have no pride? I cannot say. I cannot say. Every day I spot so many times where I'm proud. You see? So it's a work in progress. And the mind offers up newer tactics, newer ways to make us proud. This pride, we have to be very careful about, even when it is posing, especially when it is posing as false humility. Where we're just like, no, I'm really actually very stupid, like that. But inwardly you're feeling like, wow, I'm so great because I'm admitting I'm stupid. You see? So, if you can't do it with integrity, then just be quiet. Be quiet. So, it's very, very important to not get stuck in pride. You see? Because if you start, today I was reading Saint Teresa, she said, if you start with the door of humility, then that keeps you safe. Otherwise, the examples of spiritual ego messing everything up, starting from Ravan onwards, are rampant. Especially in satsang like this, where a lot of the absolute pointers of Advaita are used, the mind has an affinity to these, has an affinity to the absolute sounding pointers of Advaita Vedanta. So we must be very careful not to make positions out of them. Make knowledge out of them. And this false knowledge will block your true self-knowledge, your heart knowledge. So if it is stale, one quick check for this is it coming from a stale place? Sometimes I end up hearing Sangha or some others talking, and many times it's just coming from a stale place of something that was previously understood, maybe from a true place of insight also. You see? But if it has become stale, where you concluded that even 5 minutes ago, then it's not true knowledge. True knowledge must be fresh and alive for you right now. So as you're saying, for example, if you're saying, I am not the doer, which is very popular for us to say in Advaita Vedanta, then it must be seen for you at that moment. You see? That truth of it, the insight that you're meeting, you must recognize that words are inadequate to convey that. You see, and yet you're trying to point to your experience, you see, it must be done in that spirit, not from something you discovered when you were meditating 3 years ago. You saw that there's nobody there, and you're saying that there's nobody here. You see, but it's so apparent in the way that you're saying it, in the lack of fragrance of the words, that there's clearly somebody who's taking themselves to be something. You see? So the trick is be fresh. If you're going to talk about God, if you're going to talk about truth, it is here now, isn't it? So it must be spoken from the freshness of the inside, not from the staleness of something that you discovered earlier that is not fresh. Then your life, then your words become satsang. That which is shared in God's light, that which is shared from His presence, that is satsang. It doesn't have to be right, it doesn't have to be wrong according to the intellect. It doesn't matter how people judge it or whether they agree or disagree. The only condition is that it must come from Him, it must come from His light, from His presence. That's the important thing.
Guruji, you mentioned that experience that you are not the doer. I mean, I also know that conceptually that I am not the doer, but
Exactly.
I don't know how to experience that.
Yes. So then we must not say it. We must not say it. I'm saying that unless it is fresh and alive for you right now, and there's no reason for you to say I'm not the doer. You see, because I could ask the one who's saying I'm not the doer, who is the you that is not the doer? You see, and if that one doesn't exist, why are you making the claim that you are it, the one that doesn't exist? You see? So only speak what is true in your heart at that moment.
I actually use that when I'm too mixed up in the work, and if I want to just
Okay. If you're using it as a medicine, then it is fine.
yeah, it's
But if you're using it as a sword to cut others down, then it's not.
okay.
You see,
But
to show how intelligent you are, how stupid they are. Many times these kind of knowledge gets used in this way.
no, but
Yes,
I
if
want
it's a pointer that brings you back to open and empty, then
Right.
by all means. Yes.
but I want to experience that.
So, what happens when you remind yourself of that? Do you experience that?
I go to my presence.
Yes. But why is this important that you are not the doer that brings you to presence?
So then I leave everything to God.
I see. That's fine. Does He take care of it or no?
Yeah, it is. Okay. Right.
You see, but remember not to, it's not a cheat code for life. In the sense that you have a desire that you want fulfilled and you feel that, oh, I'm not capable or it's not happening through my effort, so I'm not the doer. Yeah? So we give it to God but we are giving it to God with one eye open. Are you making it happen? It's not happening yet. Better get to work, God. You see, this kind of stuff. Reverse servitude type of prayer, no? That we make many times, where we want God to be in servitude to us because we know best what needs to happen. He's just the force who's going to make it happen. You see? We must be careful over that. So when I say, does He take care of it? I only mean that can you rest in peace and just allow it to unfold as you leave it to Him, you see? And the outcome can only be determined to be good if it comes from Him. Maybe. But we are not to oppress our heart by the mind saying, no, no, but you surrendered and see what happened. The child I used to have this computer game. I don't remember which one it was. Either Duck Duck or one of these games where you could just enter a cheat code God. Then you get all the achievements of the game. It locks everything. No? But God is not that way, where you decide and He does. Let Him decide and let Him do. That is true surrender. So, but be careful that this pointing may prevent you from praying. You may say, but then I can't pray for anything specific. If He's the one who should be deciding, then I can't pray. But you have to be true to yourself in this. If you're not going to pray to Him and say, please help me with this, but you're going to spend so much time just worrying about it, then it's much better that you pray specifically for that. So sometimes we become very like, oh, I can't pray for anything specific, like that. But we'll spend half the day just like, is it happening? Is it going to happen? So that is pride again. I don't pray for anything specific, but your worry is then what? Your individual attempt to resolve it because you put the locus of power onto yourself again. So if you're going to worry about it, it's better that you pray about it. My full blessings are for you to let go of this addiction. And there is something in that, in the sense that the biggest addiction, of course, is the mind. But the mind itself creates these other support addictions, so that then our life seems so full that we don't turn to God, we don't live in His light. But I hope you can stay at least for a few days, because in the Sangha, quite organically I would say, although it has been tough for some of the Sangha members, we've looked at these addictions, and I'm happy to report that most of the Sangha children are free from these addictions of smoking, drinking, alcohol. So my full blessings are for you to be free from this, and may your life completely turn towards the holiness within your heart. Because I've seen the long-term impact of this addiction on some very close relatives and friends, that you're able to come up honestly. That is the first important step, to honestly admit that this is not good for me, not good for the body, which is a beautiful instrument, beautiful gift from God, and it's not good for my living in His light. So I'm very happy to assist you in whatever way I can, so that you can be free from this. And we've got many examples of children who are doing drugs and doing all kinds of things which was hurting them at all layers of their being. With just being in satsang and just following my request to try and stop, they've been able to do that. Bless you. Anytime these substances are like the mind's attempt to go beyond ourselves. Yeah? We're trying to experience ourselves in a bigger way, in a higher way, but it takes us on this merry-go-round, which momentarily may even seem like it works. You see, many children initially they report to me saying, but this really helps me, it really works. You see, I feel like I'm not this body, I'm not this mind. I see that I'm bigger than that. But that is not in the right way, it is not in the right direction. That organic recognition, see, which is the way of the masters, the way of the sages, we must rely on that, because through deepening our reliance on Maya, we cannot come to the highest. If we get more and more used to consuming in this Maya under the pretense of meeting ourselves in a higher way, then it gives you that illusion of winning initially, but later the byproducts, the side effects, the effects that it has, not just on the body, but at all the layers, your emotional well-being, your mental well-being, and you can't even access truly your spiritual center because your mind is creating, you see, delusions about it, and it seems like you are. So it's very important to let go of this. And of course, some of you reported that there are some ancient substances and techniques which are used by proper spiritual people. So I don't know, I don't have any experience with that firsthand, so I can't really confirm. But if it is possible organically, and if there is nothing missing when you do it organically, then you don't need to go through all the trouble. I can't make a judgment on whether it works or not because I don't have first-hand experience of that. But there's nothing missing in the fullness of meeting God's presence without anything. So the lazy me would say, why go through all that trouble then? But I have to say that also many times I've heard reports about the side effects, the bad trips, the bad impacts of going to someone who is not a true practitioner. You got fooled, conned, so don't worry. If your devotion, faith, love can bring you to Him, don't have to worry about these things. You go to these holy places in India. Yeah. When I first went to Rishikesh, I was a child, no? I went like long back. So I used to feel like everyone who's dressed as a sadhu must be a true sadhu. Huh? And most of the sadhus were doing the chillam and they were high. So then I felt like, okay, this must be a spiritual thing which is helping them. So I tried talking to some of them. And in talking to a few of them, I realized there's nothing sadhu-like about them except their hair. They have the look right. But besides that, there's nothing which is sadhu-like about many of them. I won't say all or even most, but at least the ones that I met. So, and many of them get really addicted to these things and they are just then begging not for sustenance of the body but begging so that they can fulfill the habit that they've gotten into. So literally don't go on these trips. So, when our life permeates with this true self-knowledge, insight, and a deep love for God, and a deep sense of wanting to follow only His will, then we are living in the way of the heart. And our life itself becomes a temple of God, where effortlessly those who come in contact with us by grace are touched by His light, have the opportunity to discover His living presence within themselves. And in this way, the love for God and His presence may spread. We check if the answers change after sitting in satsang. One moment of God and no money after that. All of you seeming a bit more amenable to that now. I should ask these questions at the end of satsang. It's seeming less scary. But will we let Him, is the question. He says God Himself is dissolving the me. But He loves us so much that He allows us to play for as long as we like.
How are you okay with that option not being available to meet him once and never again?
What is the question? I've actually forgotten. So it was, you have either it's a completely godless life, or the option is that you meet Him for a moment and you have no money after that for the rest of your life.
The money part, but one moment after that everything changes. It's like you want it more than anything. Then if you're not getting it more than not the money, that bothers you. That you'll never be able to.
But the alternative was that there's no God at all. A completely godless life, or a life where God's presence is met with for a moment and there's no material comfort after that.
It's like you've tasted it and you want it again.
Okay.
Might even be better
So
to
what
not
would you
taste
pick?
it at all.
What would you pick?
Can't say, but
Contemplate. That's not necessarily a right or wrong answer. But I just feel like if you were to make that offer here, it seems like sound like a no-brainer question. And yet, if it feels like it has some juice, we must contemplate.
be okay with never meeting God again right now after this moment.
Yeah. But if I would never have met Him, versus at least a moment of this darshan is worth whatever. So if you said to me, for example, that a moment of God and you will never see your biological or Sangha children again after that for the rest of your life, and that's something that still has some juice here. So this is a good way to explore our attachments. What would I not give up for a moment of God? You see? Because actually what has happened also is that because There are so many satsangs on YouTube and there's so much spirituality seeming everywhere. But in the past, if you read even these comics like Amar Chitra Katha, these people would do sadhanas for lifetimes, 100 years standing upside down in a cave, trying to get one moment with God. It seemed that valuable. Now we just made it into something almost commoditized. But it's that important. And I have to say that for many of our brothers and sisters will never really come to even a moment of a true meeting with God's presence. They may come to a moment of emptiness when they see a beautiful image, scenery. They may come to a lot of unconditional love. But to get the darshan of God, without turning towards Him, without an ounce of surrender or faith, everything is possible by His grace. But many don't even realize that it is possible like that. For most, it just sounds mythical, it just sounds imaginary to come to God. Even most who start off in satsang feel that satsang is more than what they bargained for. Because many of you came because you just wanted some peace, you had too much stress at work, or you were going through something, you see, and you wanted freedom from that. You see? And then when you start to get a sense of what the project is, you feel that, no, I didn't really come for that. And that is natural. Because the word satsang itself no longer in the world means satsang. That we can actually come into the company of the truth. Sat ka sang. It's just become a euphemism for feeling better, having good feelings, something like that. Emptiness is us setting the table for Him. Whether He comes or not is still up to Him. Whether He makes Himself palpable, apparent, is still up to Him. You see, otherwise it becomes an entitlement. I'm empty, I'm doing this Atma Darshan Samadhi for you and all of that. So I'm empty, but you have to come. We have no such power. Nobody can ever predict when it will become palpable. Did I know that day in the auto rickshaw that he's going to reveal himself in this strange situation sitting in an auto rickshaw? Even Guruji, I don't feel like he would say that he could predict that when Michael is going to pray with him or pray for him, that the being would make itself apparent to him. But there are moments in our sadhana, moments in our life which were empty before that. Yes, I would feel like there are many. So emptiness is us setting the table for the guest to come. And our table must always be set for him to come. But whether it happens or not is all His grace. That's why all the sages have said ultimately it is grace. You see? But just because ultimately it is grace doesn't mean that we don't set the table. If you don't turn to Him only, then then that becomes Advaita excuses. Oh, it's all going to be His grace, so let me just follow my mind, be identified all the time. It's not a convenient Advaita. No? The whole point of non-duality is to be empty for God. The whole point of any spirituality, including duality, Dvaita or Advaita, both are meant to make our life just about Him. You see? So, if you are able to say that when I am empty, His presence is naturally palpable to me, then that's a gift that you have received. You must be grateful for that. Because if you are able to ask a question like that, that means that when you are empty, His presence is apparent. You see? Then you must be grateful all the time. Yeah. I'm happy to go through with all of you. What is empty? What is empty? So let's go through together so we see that we are on the same page. So when we say we are empty for God, what does it mean? Empty of me. And what is empty of me?
Empty of identity.
Empty of identity, identification. So we are empty of a conceptual grasping, isn't it? So we are not buying into the offers of the mind. We are in the Zen state of allowing these thoughts to come and go. So we are in the unborn. They are empty, meaning that these thoughts are visitors. We allow them to come and go. We don't serve them tea. So that is empty. So empty of the me. Is it a requirement that the presence of the being will be immediately palpable, tangible? No. See, I feel like many times before I came to the recognition of this being, in inquiry, in meditative experiences, in so many other things that happen spiritually, there was a lot of moments of emptiness turning towards Him, but I could not find His presence, the being, and that was, I've spoken about this, that as reading books like I Am That, I used to get very frustrated as to why I can't stay with this being.
The presence is always here. Even you have said that when we are empty, His presence is apparent.
Yes. So if you can confirm that, then that is His gift. Can you confirm that?
I'm afraid that this question has brought back some mind elements or something.
Can you understand the last part? Say again.
I feel that this question has brought back some, just it's bringing noise, disturbance.
Okay. Let it go.
Yeah.
Let it come and go. It's okay. The mind will come in at these moments.
Yeah.
Take your time.
Before I asked the question, it seemed apparent.
Okay.
But then when you said that, it just caused this question to come.
Okay. So take a minute, allow these thoughts to go. And maybe the best trick in satsang is to not ask a question. Our darshan of the Atma, our Atma Gyan, Atma Darshan, is always His grace, His mercy. It may happen that hearing this makes us seem helpless and powerless, but that which doesn't exist, this ego, this me, is helpless and powerless. It only makes false claims to authority and power and control.
Is it easier to be empty if you're alone?
Depends. It depends. If your conditioning is that when you're around people, then you quickly buy into their ideas and your mind gets more and more activated and you find yourself getting more and more identified, then yes. But if you feel that you can be interacting with people, all that can happen, but really continue to be empty inwardly, then that's fine. And the thing is that, can we even predict that we will be able to be empty again? And can we also predict that when we are empty, His presence will reveal itself to us? We never make those predictions. Georgie, just pass the mic. To Govind.
I like the urgency of that.
Yeah.
Um, it removes complacency and yeah, it's like acid. It's like
I
acid,
said that.
you know. On the other hand, I find peace in the grace of God, the grace of the self, that I didn't see any of this coming. And that which is true is always true. And I liked what you said today in the message about reptiles, like it's only my choice to, I can only let go of what I'm aware of. And I can only really pray for the strength to let go of what I'm aware of and to be made aware of what I'm not aware of, the wrong ideas and the beliefs. So I don't feel a contradiction between the two, but I just felt like saying that I can see the potential for fear to creep in with that. Like, God might turn his back on me again, you know, and sometimes in my mind, in my personality, I've battled with feelings of unworthiness and inferiority, and I don't want to buy into that again.
So it's funny in a sense because we discussed earlier whether God is waiting for us, and I said, of course He is. Okay? And now we're discussing whether we may turn, but He may not be waiting. So, which is true? Huh? Both are, neither is. Yes.
During meditations in the morning, uh, mostly I follow a simple technique of some imagination, and then uh, either I'm there most of the times or I'm not there, right? And that time the mind is there, and when the mind is there, the thoughts were coming in, and I was witnessing it. So I know that I'm not with God, and my mind is active. The thoughts were coming in, witnessing. Now I've been away for like last 3 days, so I was trying to meditate. So I mean, technically, it's not just because I'm not here in Satsang, but what I found was there were moments where I was in that space, but most of the times it was not even witnessing. It was like the mind was projecting like a movie. It's not thought. Movies where I'm not even taking a stand. For example, I like you or I hate you. Now that's a stand of the mind, right? So I'm thinking about work. Oh, some manager is bad or good, whatever. These are all positions the mind is taken. And as thoughts, they were coming in earlier and I was witnessing them. But now, last 2 to 3 days, I clearly saw these images or like random stuff were coming and going, and there was no positions there. It's like some random buses coming and I'm watching it, like color, like trees. It was as if like a dream, honestly. And I was surprised that it was going on. I could sit for like half an hour and sit and completely lost. And then I see like what happened? Nothing happened. With this, even when I'm working or I'm doing something, I feel that I'm actually in the same state. So one is like the mind is very strong and taking some positions
Yeah.
with God. This is
It's the haze.
like nothing. I mean, it's not even a thought. It's like uh, I would say like lost, but not thinking um, about something from a memory or a reference or taking a position. And I mean, nothing wrong or right about this. I just wanted to share this. I mean, it's not about right or wrong. I'm just wanting to share this because I could easily correlate it most of the time, and I'm like, if I'm talking to you, I might be talking from the same space. Just go on and on and on without a position, you know. But and that time clearly forget about God. Even the mind is awareness been here, and it's like completely, literally lost. And yeah, I don't know. Is it?
It's okay. It's okay. So like these half states that you can't say that you're identified, you can't say that you're empty, it's just some very subtle thing. It's okay. Keep going. It'll all get flushed out.
But from there to come back, right? Literally impossible, honestly, because I'm enjoying the movie. Whatever I'm seeing, right? It's like you don't even notice that you're witnessing it. It's so nice. It's like random things, no correlation, but it's just that so nice. It's like somebody has to wake me up, come up, so that you can go back to your technique, or just get back to your actual core, what you're trying to do. And it takes almost, I mean, the whole like, meditation is gone. And I'm seeing that I'm spending a lot of time in this state. You know,
But find a tool that keeps your meditative state alive for you. You start in the morning very good, and then maybe some inquiry or some chanting or some prayer regularly, then keeps us safe in our heart.
and another thing is at that moment, the mind is telling me like, when you're trying to meditate, the thoughts are coming in. It's very irritating to be witnessing the thoughts. But at least this state, you're not there. You're not irritated, but you're sitting and meditating. It's like, I don't know how to say this. You know, it's like I feel like being there only. Honestly, it's like it's so tempting uh, because witnessing is like irritating. Because every time, sometimes when you take a stand, for example, say I'm thinking about some work situation or money situation, health situation, and there's a position taken, and that is like,
Yeah.
in that process sitting quietly, but then it's there. It's irritating. Rather than that, can I shut down that and just watch a movie in the meditation? Just random stuff. It's okay. This is better state rather than going and looking up to this positions, and then leaving this is then going to God. So I was correlating this with the messages sent, different for different things. So I just thought I'll share this, but it's just that most of the times I'm seeing myself even in physical daytimes. I'm there only. So that's where this awareness or coming back to the moment is very tough. The shifting the gears is tough during normal times.
Love God a bit.
But I'm doing it more mechanical. Doing it more,
In your reports, I pointed out last time also that
yeah,
I rarely hear the mention of God.
yeah.
So then it becomes this sort of constant checking about our state and what is happening to us. But we never go beyond that to the higher truth. We just are hoping for some peace or some. So just love God.
Even hearing this is a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
None of you has to say that. I know already.
No, just
that much I know. I may be foolish, but
it's like,
if
again,
you
I can
don't say
feel
it now, I'll get a WhatsApp later saying, I'm feeling so much resistance to you.
of course I love God. What are you saying?
Actively. It's
That's the
all
mind's
well and
voice.
good to say, yes, of course. Conceptually, all of us love
Yeah.
God. Actively love Him. Love Him with all your might, every moment. Otherwise, it has become self-help.
There's a huge wall. I can feel it.
Yeah, again, you're doing it. You see what you're doing? The center is always me. What is happening to me? Now there's wall, now there's resistance, now there's this. I'm saying love God. What's wrong in that? Something doesn't like it because it is checkmated. No? Make your life about Him. Replace self-concern with how am I serving Him? And that's why we have recordings also there. Sometimes because of resistance we're not able to hear in the moment. You can listen to our interaction.
Yes.
So when I was young, 13, 12, 13, I was just starting my teenage rebellion years. So then what I would do is we would live in this very large complex in Delhi. You have these DDA that constructs these very large things. So it's mostly safe for children and things like that. So what I started doing was when I would get upset with my mom, I would just leave the house and go, and just walk around and then because I knew it would give her a scare. So then I would come back, after 1 hour or something, and she'd be like, "Where were you? I was so worried. You should not do that." And she'd be in tears and things like that. So then it became like a tool that I had, a trump card. So one day we had a fight. I was maybe 14 or something, and I left the house. I went around. Then I came back to the house. She wasn't bothered one bit. He's working in the kitchen. Like, do you want something to eat? You're very casual about it. And I was actually hurt, I was just like, yeah, what's happening? You're meant to make a fuss. You're meant to, I have come back and all of that. But something, my ego got broken that day, in that, at least in that way. And I never left the house like that again. So just like, this tactic doesn't work. So the parent always knows, always knows. See, when it has become pride and when it has become, when it is authentic. So we never really figure it out. We can never really know that it's going to be like that. You see? So it always, of course, feels comforting that your parent is always waiting for you and you go to them. But you've been missing for years at times. I'm not saying for you, I'm saying generally we were talking about this earlier, that it would be beautiful that he's always just waiting for us, and he is. But he also knows us very well, and when it's just feeding our pride, he knows exactly what to do. So we never say we got the depth of God, we figured him out. Never say. That is why his grace is so important. Because if my mom can figure it out, then God can definitely figure it out. Sometimes I joke about this dial-a-God service. No, it's just like you get so used to dial or order a pizza, order food, order everything can be done Zod or Swiggy or whatever. So you just feel like, I turn to God. And He will be there, but can we say? It's His grace. It's His will. Yes. Pass the mic to her. Just put it on.
Is having a desire or like a pursuit of a desire in contradiction with this path of surrender or letting go? Because when you have a desire, you're attached to, in a way, the outcome, and surrender sort of doesn't feature in that equation.
Yes.
Is that contradictory to this path?
Yes.
So then how to live life, because desires just attack you?
Do you want? Okay, so one trick is desire God more than everything else. Can you do that? Then it's okay. Especially since it's the first satsang. So I don't want to scare you off. But if you're going to desire, then desire the highest, the most. Yes? Then everything else can be subordinate desires for now. Or if you don't resonate so much with the term God, the name of God, then desire the truth or the highest. Desire that which is timeless. What happens when a desire is fulfilled? Suppose it's a worldly desire. What happens? We feel that so much contentment will come, so much joy will come, so much peace will come. But if you actually observe it at close range, you notice that the desire itself creates a sort of knot inside you. You see, and when it's fulfilled, and if you get it by God's grace, then that knot is opened up, and we feel a momentary respite. We just. So that is what desire fulfillment does. And this, like sometimes what happens in spirituality is that you hear that, like some masters have said, I give them what they want so that one day they will want what I want to give them. But I've seen this at close range, and I realized that this ego has an endless stomach. You want. You see, how many times have we said that, okay, if I only had this, I'd be happy. And then we get it, and very soon we are like, yeah, that's good. If I only had that, then I'd be happy. And what happens when we desire? Just observe the mechanics of it. A thought comes, you're fine. You're fine. Then suppose, I'm just saying, taking a example, which is that suppose a very handsome man walks past, and he walks past and your mind comes, you're fine. Even in the perception of it, it's absolutely fine. You see? But then the mind comes and says, but maybe I should go and talk to him. And so then that becomes a desire. It'd be so nice if I can be friends with this man or something like that. And then what happens in the mechanics of that? You feel that something is not fully free then, no? When you're in that desiring state, then if something is knotted up, and then suppose you walk up to this man and he's friendly and he says, okay, whatever, connect with me or whatever, then you feel like, ah. Then, next, maybe I can start, interacting with him. He seems cool. That becomes a new desire. See? And then along the ladder we go. Where does it end? Till we don't come to complete ownership, this desire doesn't end. And once we get complete ownership, then what happens? Give me space. You're too much with me all the time. See? Then we desire for some room, space. Earlier we wanted to own. Then we want space. See? It's a never-ending cycle, really. And you observe where is the peace, where is the contentment, where is the joy? Just momentarily it comes. But if you learn how to live in His love, His light, His peace, that is the only place where I have found contentment, where I have found peace. So if happiness was equal to the desires that we have, divided by the number of desires that got fulfilled, then if you had 0 in the denominator, then what would happen? Or did I get the equation wrong? Upside down maybe. Yeah. Desires fulfilled divided by the desires that we have. So if there is 0 at the denominator, then an infinite amount of happiness. Another way to look at this, since you're still not looking convinced.
No, maybe a follow-up to this, because sometimes I guess the mind justifies, or maybe I think the mind justifies, is that the drive to pursue is given to us by God to pursue something or change something. So maybe the mind tells us that it's right to have or chase something, because where is that drive coming from? I don't know if that's the mind's way of...
It is the mind thing, but everything, every contrast, every shade, everything is in consciousness. You see, the sugar is from God and the salt is from God. You see? But we have the capacity to live in this way of being identified and taking ourselves to be a body mind, and therefore all of this worldly play being most important and primary for us, and we have the power to turn towards the holiness in our hearts. You see? We don't have that power in a phenomenal way, like it's not, we were talking about it last time, that even physics has come to the conclusion that all these atomic particles that we call the body move according to some mathematical principles and some quantum randomness. So there's nothing anyone can seemingly do about it. But that consciousness, that in whose light this is all playing out, you see, that I am, which has the power to get identified as I am somebody, I am something, also has the power and will always have the power to remain empty of that identification. So there is a peddler of these narratives, there is a peddler of what would make our life better and better and better, but there's a higher source of truth, higher source of insight, higher source of knowledge, which is called the intuitive power within ourselves. Now, in the world, this seems to have got forgotten, really. But this is the intelligence which is running this whole universe anyway. It is that intelligence which a bird in the first year of its life knows, even if it's alone, knows that the season is changing and it needs to migrate to the west or something like that. You see, it has no compass, it doesn't have a calendar to say the seasons have changed, you see, and yet it starts flying. Yeah, I saw this in a National Geographic something. So I was astounded at it that what is that intelligence which makes this happen? So that intelligence we've lost touch with because we've gone with the caveman-like intelligence, which is quite primitive and it's always saying, I want, like that, and it throws tantrums when it doesn't get. So the point of coming to satsang is to also introduce us to this higher intelligence, which we also call the Atma Gyan or the Sadguru presence or the guidance of the Holy Spirit. It's all synonymous. You see? So we learn to live following the guidance from there. And my submission to you is that that's a road to true satisfaction, true contentment. And you can just experiment with this. You can experiment with this maybe on a weekend. That's what I say to most, that I know all of you have busy lives, but one weekend, say I will follow only what I'm sensing in my heart intuitively. Yeah? I will follow only the nudges from there, and I'll do that. And tell me how that the texture of that weekend was versus how we usually live. Try it out. You see, because the proof of this pudding is also in the eating. So unless you try it out, it'll seem like it's just two sides of the mind itself which are competing. You know? So it's not that. You just have to take a leap of faith somewhere, and someone is offering you a different way to live. And we are not, obviously, right in the first satsang, we are not going to bet our whole life on his ramblings. You see, but we can experiment with it if that much touched us somewhere, that I will bet one Sunday on it. What do I have to lose? So one Sunday, I will let my mind ramble whatever it wants. I will move only when my heart prompts me. So then that way, then a development of trust can happen, a development of faith can happen. Otherwise, it's very rare for the first satsang to have the impact where you're saying, I surrender my whole life. It's very rare. Yes, yes. It's a very common human condition. This fear of isolation or loneliness. So it's a blessing if we can have spiritual companionship. And actually, that is the role that the Sangha is meant to play. And I feel like slowly, we'll get to that point, that we can offer truly a spiritual refuge to each other.
How does that look like? I'm just curious how you envision that or what that looks like to you.
Okay. I feel like very heartfelt, so much, dipped in so much love, no agendas. Maybe it's going to sound very utopian, but no agendas, as little pride as possible, more open to listening than to talking. A safe space. But also heartfelt in the sense of not sort of afraid of conflict, that your heart is guiding you to point in some way, but you say, no, 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 we have to be, all lovey-dovey always. So it doesn't have to be that. But usually it will be that, because at least I've seen here that when true spirituality comes in contact with this world, love, kindness, compassion are very much its byproducts. So I shared with the Sangha once, I don't know, remember if I shared with everyone openly, that in a Sangha it is very, very important to look at the block, look at this, I'm going to use the word sin provisionally, instead of making it personal and about somebody. You see? So what happens is that a natural tendency is to abstract it to the layer of the person. You see? So if we notice that somebody is always Advaita policing us, you see? So we are quick to judge and say, but that one is an Advaita police, or this one is that, like that. But we must find a way to attack that sin, attack the Advaita policing, you see, without making it an attack on the person itself. So, because we must realize that all that afflicts a brother or sister can also, or has also afflicted us in that way. And what we would have appreciated is truly, if we sense that it is not, it doesn't become personal so quickly, and it becomes just about the block itself, the sin itself. So then I feel like it will be such a Sangha which can just grow in its own light, you see? Because we are looking at things impersonally, we are looking at things truly from the intention of truly helping. That's where it comes from. Instead of saying, I know better, I have deepened more than you. You see, these kind of tendencies can be harmful and cause a lot of quiet resentment, a lot of angst, or a lot of trouble in sanghas. So we have, of course, like I have a long way to go, obviously, then my sangha has a long way to go. But as long as we are taking one step in the right direction, one step in the right direction. It's good. Yes. This one thing is coming, well, the mic comes to you. It is to say that we are very quick to say, Govind is like this, Radha is like this, Shiva is like this one is like this, you see, like that. You see? Then that is not helpful. That is not helpful, because we've taken it to a personal level very far. You see, we're quick to judge. This one like this one like this. You see? Instead, what we are trying to say is that my brother or my sister has a particular block, and it's from what I can see in my heart, it seems to be a blind spot for them. So how can I be helpful in that moment, instead of making it like, oh, he's like that, so she's always like this, like that. So that is where we all need to mature a bit more and say, I've noticed that some sort of condition seems to be perpetuating in some of my brothers and sisters. So how can I help with? Like the report you gave me was very good that day. Just it was not personal. It was just like, but I noticed like something seems to be blocking some light in my brothers and sisters. So how can we be helpful? Very good. Where did you?
Father, I've been feeling a lot of fear almost all day, on and off, and I've not been able to, even through satsang, it's been very difficult, Father. Um,
Is it about the body thing?
it started, the trigger was the body, but then it became that whole panic wala thing. And it's, and the breathing, and it's almost like it's a khichdi in my system.
So we have
It,
to
it,
short circuit the the pattern somewhere, no? In the sense that because sometimes we get into this sort of spiral, like you're saying.
yeah.
So just find one moment because nobody can actually be in the spiral for the entire day.
Yes, it's not
Yeah.
true that I've been constantly calling on God, constantly. But I feel like it's not settled. It's still,
Yeah.
and it's like I don't want to, like the fear is I don't want to feel a panic attack in public. I don't want to be seen. So the basic message is I don't want to look like a fool. I don't want to be helpless.
Yeah. Firstly, anyone who's having a panic attack doesn't look like a fool. Right? So the mind scares us with this kind of thing. Maybe it's like the spiritual mind which says, no, no, but you've been in satsang so long, and
No, I
you know,
mean
then
people I
how
don't
can
know,
you have
like
a panic attack?
say even my car driver. No, I mean
Yeah.
it's not like he knows I'm in satsang or anything.
So
It's
suppose that suppose that your driver had a panic attack. Would you think he's such a fool? How can he have a panic attack? No? So then people don't feel that. They are usually just concerned about you and will try to help. So don't buy into the mind's imagery saying,
I don't know what I'm buying into, Father.
yeah.
It's been such a khichdi. Um,
So find a short circuit in that. Find a
how,
moment
Father?
where you can just. You said that you've invoked his presence all day, and then what happens?
So can I say, can sound stupid, but there's so many tricks the mind is playing,
Of course.
and then the body starts feeling like. Um, so first of all, like I've not seen myself just with fear starting to feel dizzy. It's becoming lately like that, like, and then that triggers fear. Like mostly in the morning, my dad's coming. I don't want to be seen like this by my dad. I can't finish packing my kids. So that's the whole thing. And today, even after they all left, the whole thing was going on. Um, and the mind has, like you said, just breathe slow. The mind has taken it on somewhere and say I'm just resting in God and the breath is just stopping, right? And then the fear just comes like, no, no, you have to breathe slow. So this whole thing, Father, it is so, I'm scared to rest in God because like the breath just, and then the mind is like, no, no, no. I don't know what, Father. It's so, and the whole day my head has just been buzzing, dizzy, like with this fear. And so I don't know what to do about this. I've just been calling on God, but I don't know.
So what happens when you call on him?
I don't know. I don't feel the presence palpable or anything. I just keep calling him.
Okay, let's try now. No God?
I don't know.
Apply, no reply.
I feel like when I call God, I don't want to feel this the way
When
I'm
I
feeling.
call God,
Yeah.
then I have to look good for him also.
No, no.
Like I can't be panicking and
No,
calling
I
God.
don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel the way I'm feeling.
No, I didn't get it. So when you call God, then what should
Then
happen?
this should just be gone.
But did God come or no is the question. Tell me, you have to wait for that. That's what we were contemplating earlier.
like the focus is so much on this side.
What makes it so?
Hmm?
What makes the focus so much on this side?
The sensations and the visuals and the thoughts and just everything, like it's
Okay.
just
So just stay in pure perception of all the sensations and just invoke God. Remember that all of Maya has only one purpose, only one design, which is what?
take us away from God.
To distract us away from God. And it works because we buy into the narratives weaved by the mind, and then that is how the me can seem apparent. So when we ask ourselves, who am I? Then that sheds up all these narratives. Or when we invoke His light, His love, then that invoking is to just bring all the focus on Him so that the narratives of the me they fall apart. So whichever method we are using, our intention should be only to come to the truth or to come to God, which is the same thing. But but nothing needs to be fixed. In His light, in His presence, nothing has to be fixed in the realm of this phenomena, this dream. But somewhere, if that mind has been able to sell us that self-concern, you see, then that becomes like the monkey on our back, constantly there, which we it seems like I can't drop it off, but you can, and you must.
So can I just say, like right now, it's completely okay what I'm perceiving.
Yeah. In what way could that change?
In what way
Could that change? That in pure perception, what seems to be perfectly all right, you see, in what way could that change?
believing in God?
Here's the narrative. Even the most true seeming thought, like I feel like something passed through just then, you see. So, no, it's not that. Otherwise, in its trickery, it'll always sell us a but, you see, and whatever it may say, it's really saying, but what about me? Even if it says, but what about this? Saying, but what about me?
I'm not able to let go, Father.
Of which message, which idea?
Many,
Huh?
many around this.
Of?
Like the visual is like I'll have that in front of my kids. I'll have that in front of my parents or in front of Samik. That's the fear. Like just not to be seen like that. And that's the trigger lately. It's just been using that.
So what will it take to drop it?
I don't know.
Huh? So for me, can you agree to look foolish or look like you've lost it or gone mad or whatever in front of everyone?
It's easy to say yes, but in reality, no. That's why there's so much fear.
Okay. Can you just in saying commit? Otherwise, I've heard this from everyone for 12 years saying easier said than done. But maybe it's easier done than said. See how the mind works? It blocks us even to say for whom, with whom that we've said that my life is yours. See? We have said many times that my life is yours. But even if that one says, just agree to look foolish, it's okay. But then that is like, my life is yours, but and knowing fully well that if this one is giving you this advice, it must be for your best. That is also known, and still that resistance plays. Because something makes a Lakshman Rekha and says, in front of my parents, I can't look stupid. In front of my this thing, I can't. These simple things. So our lives don't have to become super special like the sages and some great things have to happen. If we can just overcome these small obstacles, those are miracles enough.
I don't know why it seems so big, Father, for me.
So that is your contemplation, that is your Isaac, that is your sadhana, whatever way you look at it. Self-image and death. These are the two main notions that worry you. So slowly we have to chip away at both of these. It is such a place of strength that you gift yourself if you say that for my life is truly for God in every way. It's not my concern anymore. It is His. Otherwise, the mind has found this nice button in the remote control. Oh, parents. Dance. Then losing the body. Gets us to. So do what my mom did to me. I played the button, she didn't react. I stopped doing it. They say, you're going to die. I say, I'm still here. Only auspiciousness will come from God's presence. Don't worry about anything else. What is auspicious or good? Like what do we know? What can we take to be good or auspicious? Huh?
Only God.
Only what comes from Him. So if you try to block that only saying, but I know better how I must look to my parents, I know better. You see, that is literally the the bane of the human condition, no? To live on our own terms. It's taking all the freedom. You see, it's sucking away all the oxygen from your freedom. Sometimes it's also helpful if somebody was telling you all of this and you had to reply from your heart, what would you tell them?
Just trust in God.
You just send a WhatsApp message to yourself as if it came from someone else and then reply from your heart. Like you're helping some people in the society and things. Just in the same way. Allow your heart to shine through in some way. Don't wait for the mind to let up because it's not going to. It is, it's winning the hand, so it's not going to let up. Trust in God. When you trust in God, then you can't do half-half. That is okay. Satsang. Good.